Are you an idiot? Well, you're in good company. There are about 8 billion idiots on this planet, and that number grows every day. Don't be the guy or gal that says, "I'm not an idiot," because that makes you the biggest idiot of all. We all have our moments of brilliance and our moments of idiocy. Embrace it, folks. Don't be ashamed. Without those idiot moments, we would never be able to appreciate our brilliance. Welcome to I Love My Idiot, a podcast about the idiots we love, the idiots we loathe, and the idiots we can't seem to avoid. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Visit our website at ilovemyidiot.com.
Welcome to episode 8 of I Love My Idiot.
I'm your equal host, Clyde November.
And I'm Rosie November, and we're super excited to have you guys listening today.
We are building up quite the following.
We thought when we started this, we might have tens of listeners. Really, we started it to have a good time, to laugh together, to have a project to do together.
Oh, I thought there would be absolutely no listeners.
Yeah, I thought maybe we would be the listeners.
Maybe Andrew.
Yeah, but now here we are. We have 1,000 listeners, over 1,200 followers, and we're just crushing it.
So we're going to dedicate this week's episode to our second Superfan.
Superfan! So he's actually another podcasting buddy. He found us on Facebook, and he's just been spreading the word that we're awesome. We listen to his podcast too, and we think he's awesome.
I highly recommend everybody go out and check out his podcast.
That's right. It's JT Project, and it's a funny podcast, but it's also a musical podcast. So oftentimes he'll highlight musicians, and he's freaking hilarious. So John and Gail Thomas are super fans. It's actually a husband and wife.
Recently married, right?
Recently married. They've been together for like 5 years. They just tied the knot, so we're super excited. Congratulations on your wedding. Even though at this point, I'm pretty sure you're common law, like...
Well, yeah, if you tie the knot officially, you get wedding presents and stuff
right.
like that.
I mean, I get it.
No one gives you wedding presents for common law.
So some fun facts about John and Gail. John crushes mosquitoes with his bare hands, and Gail crushes pounds.
It's not easy to lose weight. Well, my weight loss journey, I fluctuate 20 pounds. I go...
Depending on the time of year.
I go 195 down to 175, back to 195.
Gail hates traffic. John happens to be a road rager, so they're sort of a perfect match. They are professional ranters and idiots just like us. So welcome to the idiot family, John and Gail. And this episode is dedicated to you. We appreciate you. We appreciate your reviews, your likes, your shares, and also the socks that you sent, Clyde. Super awesome.
He is a Batman fan.
That's right.
I love Batman. And this has caused some tension in our marriage because you grew up a Superman fan.
But here's the thing. This is where John wins me back. He also collects mugs, which
Ooh,
we all know that I love mugs and I love tea. I mean, he's sort of winning it with both Clyde and Rosie at this point.
You have more mugs than we can fit into our cupboard.
And I keep collecting them. I don't know why I keep buying mugs.
Yeah, you can't resist a good mug.
No, you can do a lot of things with mugs. You could drink tea, you could drink cocoa, you could eat soup, which you do frequently.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of soup, I tried a new soup tonight.
Yeah, it was horrible. Our whole house stinks, everybody.
Which reaffirms why I hate cauliflower. For some reason, Rosie decided we were going to grow cauliflower in our garden.
Because I love cauliflower, but whatever you did to that soup was wrong. Here's the thing, Clyde. It is the middle of summer. Why on earth are we still eating soup?
And I say, where's the appreciation that you at least have dinner? Like, you could come home and it could be microwavable burritos or something.
And I would almost prefer that to soup, I'm not going to lie.
Actually, there's times where you do go for the microwavable burrito and say you can eat the soup, Clyde.
You know what? I know they're super unhealthy for you, but there's like nothing better than those bean and cheese rice burritos, like the real cheapy ones. Growing up, we did not have salsa or a lot of condiments, but we always had ketchup. So we would eat those cheapy bean burritos with ketchup. And to this day, it's sort of a comfort food for me. I don't know why. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, I can't eat a burrito with ketchup. I have to have salsa or nothing.
In fact, I think the first time I did it, you were like, you're weird.
Yeah, but that's the fun thing about getting married is you start to find a lot of real weird things that people do that just blow your mind, like putting ranch on rice-a-roni. That's another thing that you do that I'm like, what the freak are you doing? Rice-a-roni is delicious the way it comes.
Dude, it's more delicious if you put ranch on it.
I love ranch, and I love ranch on just about anything, but I don't see it with rice-a-roni. To me, it's not a match made in heaven.
Dude, I'll put ranch on anything.
It's fun when you make like a amazing discovery like that. When I was a little child, I had never heard of anyone dipping pizza in ranch, but I had a similar experience. I had a salad on my plate, and the ranch came over and got onto my pizza, and I thought I had made this amazing discovery. I went to school the next time it was pizza day, and I started telling everyone, you got to dip your pizza in ranch. So
people are
everyone,
like, duh.
no
we all
one
do that.
No one had heard of it. At first, everyone was like, that's gross, Clyde. So all these kids in my school started doing it.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone was like, this is amazing. And I thought I was like this revolutionary kid, like I had made this amazing discovery, only to find out that, that's something that almost everyone does. So,
I think everyone discovers that trick with school lunches.
Yeah, because school lunch tastes so bad, you're looking for any way to make it taste better.
Pictures of ranch dressing on the side where you can just have free range to the ranch dressing.
When you just barely tilt the pitcher, it comes gushing out, covering your entire plate. But one good thing does come out of it. And that's that you discover everything tastes good with ranch, except rice-a-roni.
Oh my gosh. That is a matter of opinion. Freaking delicious.
So if you have rice-a-roni in your pantry and you also have ranch in your fridge, I want you to do this experiment. Let us know what you think. Is it a thing? Should it become a thing? Is Rosie a revolutionary like I was with the pizza and ranch? Hashtag Clyde invented pizza and ranch.
That is not true. Everybody does that.
Before we move on to our main topic, there is something I want to talk about real quick.
All right, what is it?
We did have dentist appointments this week.
That's right. No cavities in the November household.
That's
Very
right.
exciting.
Not just for the adults, but for the kids also.
Yeah.
Which is a big accomplishment.
Huge.
We ride our kids hard when it comes to brushing their teeth.
Yeah, because we learned the hard way. Little James, when he was probably about 4 years old, we found out he had some cavities, and he's got about 5 silver teeth. And so it traumatized us, and we have been on their asses to get their teeth cleaned now.
He was the kid that would not open his mouth when you asked him to open his mouth.
And you had to burrito him just to get the toothbrush in there to get it brushed.
Oh, yeah. It was a two-man job. So we kind of dropped the ball, slacked off a little bit. I mean, we still tried to brush his teeth, but we accepted defeat. But after we got that first dental bill, when we had to get all those silver teeth put in.
$5,000, by the way.
Yeah, that was a defining moment in my life where I said, never again. I am going to be the toothbrush Nazi.
It's working out for us. No cavities.
That's right. However, you did get some advice.
Yeah, he said I'm scrubbing away my gums or something like that.
Which the reason I was against you using my toothbrush in the first place was because of how hard you push.
He didn't say it was severe. He just said, hey, maybe just don't do that. I should never have told you because I knew.
It does make the bristles curl.
Oh my gosh, Clyde, seriously.
I have a hard time with the dentist. I really do. I hate going to the dentist.
You look like you're about to cry every time you go to the dentist. It is awkward to see you and how clenched you are the whole time. Whereas me and the kids, we're just meh, it's fine.
I have a good reason to be clenched up. All right. First of all, I have 3 traumatic experiences with dentists.
You think you got traumatic experience with dentists? The dentist I had growing up drove around a bus and would park in front of the school. And that was our dental care. We would go out. Only the poor kids who didn't have insurance could go get a free checkup from the dentist in the bus. And this guy was old and stinky, smelled like cigarettes. And all of his dental assistants were missing their teeth. It was awkward. And they barely spoke English, which isn't a problem, except for when they're trying to tell you to do things so that they can clean your teeth better. You're like, oh, you were saying open wider. I had no idea that was what you're saying. And it was horribly traumatic.
Well, we didn't have the traveling trailer, sure. But don't be fooled by the brick and mortar walls into thinking that meant the dentist was competent. Our dentist, it was a friend of my parents. Because he was a friend of the family, we had to go to him. And he didn't wear one of those masks that people wear.
Dude, I'm pretty sure that's illegal.
It probably is. And he had horrible breath.
Ew.
So he would just sit there and breathe on you.
Gross.
He would always say, make sure you're brushing your teeth. And I'd be thinking, yeah, you too, bud. He also had this big, thick mustache and like boogers would get stuck in it. So as like a 7-year-old child, this guy would sit there and breathe on my face and I would just stare at the boogers.
Dude, no wonder you hate the dentist.
Yeah, well, that's only the beginning.
Yeah.
Then I joined the United States Army. And that's where the real anxiety came from. So as I was getting ready to deploy to Iraq, they do what's called preventative dental work, where they look at your teeth and they try to anticipate possible problems because they don't send dentists to a combat zone. What's hilarious is they contract a civilian dentist to do these exams because they know their dentists are incompetent. So this guy tells me I have potential for a root canal, but then they don't let him work on me. Instead, they send me to the military dentist. And guess what that guy did?
He root canaled the wrong tooth.
That's right. Not the wrong tooth. He actually got the right tooth, but the wrong root.
Oh.
Because there's multiple roots in each tooth. And so I, got the x-rays and had to bring it back to the headquarters center. And they looked at it and they said, what is this? This is the wrong root. So I had to go back the next day and get it done again. Right? Well, this ended up pretty much making that tooth with the double root canal now become just a hassle over the years that has just led to problem after problem after problem.
Oh, yes, I know.
Yeah. So we eventually...
Because I spent so much money on your freaking replacement tooth.
Yeah, the tooth eventually cracked right down the middle because of all this work that had been done on it. And we had to get an implant, which was not pleasant physically, but more so financially. Very expensive. And insurance does not cover dental implants for some reason.
No, at least not our insurance. I'm sure some do, but ours did not. And it was extensive. Although that's not the worst story.
Oh, yeah, it does get worse. Here's a real doozy for you. Military dentist again. Military dentists are the most incompetent idiots in the world. We told you about the plumber last week. Military dentist makes that plumber look like a professional. I'm just saying. And if you're offended by that, you either are a military dentist or you've never been to a military dentist. So this guy, he's working on my teeth.
Well, they are like in buses too, right? Like
it's
like a
kind of like the traveling trailer
it's
you
a
went to.
trailer dentist. Yeah, I get it.
So he's working on me, but he's really focused on the dental hygienist sitting next to him.
Yeah.
And he starts telling her about this blind date he went on. And she's like, ooh, any interest that may go somewhere? Maybe, become a girlfriend? And he's like, well, I have a confession.
Oh my gosh.
He's like...
confessing his love as you're on the table.
He's like, I didn't want anything to go anywhere with her because I actually have feelings for someone that I work with.
Oh my gosh.
And she starts naming all the names of the dental hygienists that they work with. Is it Carol? He's like, no. Susan? No. She goes through about 5 names and he says no to all of them. And then she starts over on the list because she's like, well, that's everyone we work with. And he says, there's one more girl that I work with that you haven't named. Being real careful about that pronoun he's using. He's saying I work with, not we work with. And she's naming all the names. And I'm thinking,
dude,
lady, it's you. Like the guy wants you. She may have been onto that actually and purposely did not want to be the one he wanted.
Dude,
because the guy's incompetent.
He's a borderline sexual harassment there. And too, I mean, to do that with a direct report like that, like...
oh, yeah.
That's highly inappropriate.
Like in the military, this isn't going to mean a lot to a lot of people, but the dentist was a major and she was a specialist.
Oh.
So you're not supposed to intermingle. Mm-hmm. It happens, but whatever.
He clearly wanted to intermingle.
Oh, yeah, he did. He was definitely trying to put his dental probe inside her.
I kind of feel bad for the guy, actually, if she wasn't interested. Like, how awkward is that to confess your love and to have that person be like, oh,
Yeah.
Well, let's just get back to work.
And then, and then to do it right in front of a patient who's thinking you're an idiot, dude.
Yeah.
Speaking of that patient, let's get back to the main character of this story, who is actually me. I'm the one having to sit here and tolerate this dentist striking out, and he's paying zero attention to me. It was about this point where all of a sudden, both the dentist and the hygienist freaked out, and he yelled at her, "Grab it!" And she grabbed that weird little vacuum thing and jammed it as far down my throat as possible. I thought I was going to throw up, so I start gagging, and they sit me up and they start slapping my back like I'm a child choking, and I'm like,
oh my
what
gosh.
Afterwards, they're like, "Did you spit it out?" And I'm like, "Spit what out?" And they're like, "The drill bit."
Oh,
and I'm like,
my
"What are
gosh.
you talking about?" And they're like, "The drill bit fell off the drill and went down your throat." And I'm like, And then they're asking, "Did you feel it?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm so numb.
Yeah.
You know, I've got the Novocaine." The dentist says, "Soldier, I think you just swallowed my drill bit," as if this is my fault.
Oh my gosh.
And then he said, "If you're lucky, you swallowed the drill bit. If you're unlucky, you inhaled the drill bit. And if it's in your lungs, you're going to have surgery to remove it." And then he's just like, "Oh, well." And I'm like, "Oh, well," like... They put a new drill bit on the drill and try to finish up, but by this time, my Novocaine has worn off. And I told the guy, I can feel you drilling on me. And he said, "I'm sorry, soldier. They only give us an allotted amount of Novocaine for every soldier. You've already had your fill." So I had to sit there for another 20 minutes and get drilled on, feeling everything. It was uncomfortable.
Well, first of all, you call your very pregnant wife, "By the way, I may have breathed a drill bit and I might need surgery." Like, that's what you say to me. You don't say, like, "Maybe I swallowed it and I'll just poop it out." No, you go straight to the worst. And so here I am sitting on pins and needles for like 2 hours while that you go to get x-rayed. It was terrible.
Turns out it was not in my lungs, so that was good news.
That was good news.
It was not in my stomach either.
Also good
so
news.
that means I have a portal to another dimension in the back of my throat. That thing dropped and
Oh my
disappeared
gosh.
completely.
You know, I would like to say, though, some of the things that the Army did for us was awesome. Just because this one dentist was incompetent, we did see a lot of competence while we were Army family.
Yeah, I have nothing against the military.
No.
I'm proud of my military service. So if you are serving this country and listening to this podcast, first of all, we thank you for your service. We pray for your safety every single night. Secondly, go to a private dentist. It doesn't matter how much it costs.
So let's get into the topic of the day. It's pretty exciting. We're actually going to talk about something that we touched on a little bit in episode 1.
Rosie was adopted.
Yes.
And adoption is going to be what our topic of the day is going to be about.
That's right. So I was adopted by my father, but my mom is my birth mom. So it's like a stepchild sort of adoption, I think. But I was adopted by him when I was 2. I had his last name. He raised me up till the divorce, and then it was single mom in it. But he's the dude I call dad.
Yeah, he was the one that walked you down the aisle when we got married.
And I mean, I credit a lot to him in terms of some of the foundations that have made me who I am today. So really grateful for my adoption. It is sort of a unique world that I grew up in, having been adopted with 2 other children in the household that are
Purebred.
Purebred. Yeah.
For lack of a better
So I was
word.
sort of the mutt. I was like the mutt that's like the tiniest of the mutts in the family.
So in some ways, I kind of think of your adoption as being a little bit unique like that. However, I did a little bit of research. I found out that there are 7 million Americans that are adopted.
Wow.
And that's not just talking children. Like, those are just 7 million people. Some of them are grown now. And of those 7 million, there are a million different scenarios that led to those adoptions. So there may be many people that were just like you, raised by your birth mother, but adopted by a stepfather. So another cool fact I discovered is that adoption is not exclusive to humans. It can actually be observed in many primates. say like a baboon, the mother dies or something like that, other females will step up and raise the orphan. That's kind of a primate trait that we see across many different primate species, including, but not limited to, Bigfoot.
I mean, you also see it with like other animals too, where a pregnant dog will like adopt a kitten.
Oh yeah, like a stray roaming around the neighborhood or something.
It's awesome. I mean, the kindness of animals and humans at taking care of those that are without is pretty incredible. So there are some funny things about being adopted that are kind of unique. Number one, you don't look like anyone else in your family. It's really interesting because both Seamus and Christine tower over me. And so growing up, even though I was the oldest, I was always the shortest and the smallest.
You were definitely the runt.
I was the runt. And it was so funny because people would be like, oh, is this your little sister? And my little sister would say, no, that's my big sister, you know? So I was like her big little sister, basically.
Yeah, and Seamus looks just like your dad.
I didn't look like anybody, which was an interesting thing about being adopted. And once I found out I was adopted, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
It's all coming together now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like I look just like all of my siblings and my parents, and that's not a good thing. Sometimes I wish I was adopted. Get away from this terrible genetic mess known as the Novembers.
Exactly. I don't have to question whether or not my dad wanted me because he chose to adopt me. And that's cool.
Ooh, that's an interesting angle.
It takes me back to when I was going to get my name changed. And I didn't want to change my name because I was so connected to the name that I was given by my dad. And I knew how special it was that I had that name. And so...
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was about 2 weeks after our marriage. We're sitting in the Social Security office, and you all of a sudden started crying.
I know. I felt like I was giving up a name that I was given. It was the weirdest feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always knew I was wanted by my dad.
You had even told me, I'm betraying my dad by taking on the November name. And I said, knowing your dad and his traditional values, he would disown you if you did not take on the November name.
Exactly. Another cool thing about being adopted is I could say, I'm not related to any of these people. After that, I sort of used that as a crutch, like, dude, Seamus, you're actually related to that guy.
See, now
that's
that
on you.
Is the thing that I wish I had. And my siblings used to play a joke on me and tell me that I was adopted. After a while, I actually started to wish that it was true and I really was adopted and not connected to all these weird people.
I have to admit, it is a Benny not being actually related to some of the idiots in your world. Another thing that's kind of interesting about being adopted is I had different taste buds than my siblings.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like what?
They all like plain food. Like, they don't like things that are too spicy.
And you like your food really spicy.
I love spicy food. I also love salt. If I could eat salt on everything, I would. I love salty foods, and they're more into, like, sweets and things like that.
You know, Rosie really does love spicy food. And one of our first romantic dates together was to a Mexican restaurant, and they had the spiciest salsa. And she's eating it in clumps.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here knowing that I'm sensitive to spice, but I don't want to show weakness, you know, because she's like, well, Phil could eat it. Actually, she didn't say that, but she was probably thinking it. So I'm like, I'm going to man up and I'm going to eat this salsa. So
Except you couldn't hide it because there was sweat dripping.
The back of my neck had sweat dripping down. And about halfway through the meal, she was like, are you okay? I'm like, it's burning. So yeah, that must have been from the other side of the family than your brother and sister.
Mm-hmm. So there was some funny things about being adopted.
So you have a fairly unique experience. When you were growing up, you actually knew your biological father, but you didn't know he was your biological father. So who was your biological father?
So my biological father was actually a dude who lived in the neighborhood for a period of time. My mom would take me over there to get babysat by this woman.
Your biological grandmother.
While I was visiting with grandma, I happened to always see this dude who was always drunk and belligerent.
Now, that's interesting that you called this lady grandma.
It wasn't uncommon, though, in my family. So
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, this is one thing that Clyde thought was really weird about me when we got together. I had aunts and uncles and grannies and grandmas and grandpas and friends and cousins that were not blood related to me all over the place.
Oh, yeah. In my family, your relatives are the only people you call aunt and uncle. Your grandparents are the only people you call grandma, grandpa. It was like trying to crack the Da Vinci Code to figure out how all of these people were related and how they were all connected to you. So I would meet someone new and you would call them either uncle or aunt or grandma, grandpa, cousin. And I would be trying to put the pieces together. Like how are you related to this person?
Relation to this? Like different last name? What's up with that?
Yeah. And
they'd be like, oh, it's a buddy that my dad went to high school with. Like,
yeah, exactly. And
we live in the same trailer park.
I started to realize almost everybody you called uncle, aunt, you actually had no relation to.
Yeah, that's correct.
You calling this lady grandma must have not meant anything specific to you because you had many people that you called grandma.
And it was a little different with her because I just sort of knew that she wasn't my grandma, which turns out she actually was. But the fact of the matter is I knew my grandma and grandpa on both sides of the family. And I sort of just always put them apart as just people that were like family, if that makes any sense.
Okay. So when you were going over there, do you have any distinct memories of your biological father? Now, at this time, you didn't know he was biological. In that time, did he ever try to interact with you or do anything with you?
Not really. I mean, he was usually watching TV, drinking. And then I would be so bored out of my mind because it would just be me. It wouldn't be Seamus and Christine there. It was like I was all by myself getting babysat.
Was it like your mom was trying to set up a venue for you to make a connection with this lady that actually was a biological grandparent to you?
Yeah, and I think she wanted me to have an awareness to who Frank was. And Frank was my biological dad. I think she wanted me to know what he looked like and who he was because she was also adopted. My mom was left on the front porch of my grandpa's house when she was 6 months old, completely abandoned by her birth mother. And she never knew her birth mother. We've done investigative work to try and figure out if we can find her. We know that she died in 1995, and that's all we know about her. It's hard for my mom because she knows that she's been looking for her biological family her whole life and has only hit roadblocks. She's never been able to actually find them. Even though she knows that she has other siblings out there, we've never been able to connect them.
And that must be devastating to finally find your biological mother, but it's a tombstone.
Yeah, it was absolutely horrible for her. And so my mom, having experienced this traumatic experience herself, knew she wanted me to know Frank. I don't know if it was worth it.
Yeah.
Because it was really hard for me going there, and I just felt like I was like an inconvenience to this guy. Like Frank, I thought he didn't like me. I just thought he was a dude who hung out at my granny's house. The only thing he would do is yell at me. And I don't know why he was yelling at me because I was a really good kid. But if I ever touched something, or he'd tell me to go play outside, but maybe if I was playing in the wrong area, he'd come and yell. And when I finally told my mom and dad that I didn't want to go to grandma's house anymore because Frank was mean to me, they stopped the visits.
When did you find out you were adopted?
So I found out I was adopted when I was 8 years old. My mom and dad sat me down and said, "We have something to tell you about. You're adopted." And I was like, what's adopted mean? I'm 8. I've never heard this word before. I do not know what they're talking about. And then my mom says, well, it means that your dad is not your real dad.
And that must have been hard on you because you were more of a daddy's girl,
Absolutely.
weren't you?
I was 100% a daddy's girl. He was my favorite person on the planet. I basically became a blubbering mess and just started crying. And then I said, well, then who is my dad? Frank is your dad.
It has to be the town drunk who yells at you when you touch his stuff.
I was like, oh, the dude that hated me at Granny's house? Like, he's my real dad? That was so disappointing.
Well, that must have been a interesting moment because reflecting on all those trips to Granny's house, you must have been thinking that guy never even wanted anything to do with me. And that was my father?
Right. The only good thing that came of it was learning that Granny was my real granny. Like, that was very rewarding for me because I really loved her.
Yeah, you did mention that you sat with her often and talked with her. Is there anything she told you?
Oh, yeah,
any
she
stories,
taught me about
any
STDs.
life lessons? Ooh, really?
Yeah.
STDs? Like from personal experience?
Yeah.
Or?
She is so funny. I'm like 9 years old and sitting with her. She said, now, Rosie, I need to tell you something very important. And I'm thinking like, the popsicles are ready that we just put in the freezer? She says, when you grow up, you're going to meet a lot of men.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. And I said, whoa, are you like a fortune teller? Like, this is awesome. I like men, you know?
She had a scandalous past.
And she's like, there will be a lot of choices of men that will want to date you. And I was like, what does date you mean? That sounds awesome.
I think she was trying to warn you away from Phil.
At a wee young age of 9 years old, she wanted me to know that Phil was out there. And she goes, when you're tempted by all of these men, make sure that you examine their parts very closely because you don't want to get creepers in your jeans.
Did you have any idea what that meant? I'm guessing no.
To which I replied, well, I definitely don't want creepers in my pants. And then she proceeds to tell me that they're like head lice on your private parts. And so, and then she tells me a story how she had frequented many men, and when she met Papa Bob, she had to deal with the creepers in her pants before he would marry her. And like this whole big story.
This is the most fascinating way to receive the talk about the birds and the bees.
Yeah, it was a little weird. I already knew about the birds and the bees at that point because I had my mother as a mom and she was very open about how stuff worked. But this was the first time I learned that commingling those parts could result in STDs. And needless to say, I've always been very protective over my parts because of Granny.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, when we first got together and I mentioned that I had a medical issue that would prevent us from becoming pregnant, your first words were, you show me written record of you being tested and we'll throw those condoms away.
You know, it's funny because every person I've been with, I've made get tested. And I know that's a weird request of somebody that you're really interested in commingling with.
Yeah, but Granny would not have it any other way, right?
But she traumatized me to the point that I've had every single person I've been with tested, and I've paid for them too. Yeah,
no, and I told you I'm clean, and you said no. I want to see the paperwork. I don't want those creepy crawlies in my pants.
She wanted me to be hyper aware. She passed away when I was 16 years old. She's the best part of the fact that Frank is even my biological dad, is the fact that I had her in my life. Frank, on the other hand, I could do without. So
Frank eventually starts playing a bigger role in your life.
Right after the divorce, my mom decided to frequent the bars again because she's free. Freedom! And she can't wait to get out there and let the world know that she's available. She finds herself at the very same dive bar where she got pregnant with me. And guess who's at the bar?
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say Frank was there.
Frank was there. He was available and looking good to my mom.
Instant reconnection or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he came to our house that night and I was like, dude, why is Frank here? I hate that guy. After that, he frequented our home almost nightly for about a year.
So did your mom and him, was it just physical or did they have somewhat of a relationship?
They formed a relationship. He semi-lived with us for about 3 months. He ended up frequenting other females' homes and my mom found out about it and dumped him. I haven't seen him again or heard from him again until the day before we got married.
Did you have any experiences with him in that time when he was living with you for 3 months? Did he ever try to have a connection with you, or was that forced on by your mom in any way?
Oh, it was very forced. Yeah, I think she wanted to be with him, and so she made sure that he was trying to play the dad card, and I just wasn't having it. I was like, I have a dad. He's in Tennessee. He's sort of famous, you know. At that time, I thought he was famous because he had a CD out. And I was like, oh my gosh, CDs were new, you know. And I just thought, wow, if you have a CD, you're like big time in Nashville. And then I saw the CD and it was like written on with a Sharpie and stuff.
When you love and adore the person you call father.
Yeah.
And then this biological deadbeat dad steps into the picture.
Right.
That is not something you're just dying to embrace.
No.
Like you had a unique situation because you had a male role model. You had a father figure that you grew up with. The only time I have ever spoken to Frank, I would say every 3, 4, 5 years, Frank resurfaces in your mom's life, just in case if, you know.
Yeah, and just in case she wants to still put out or something.
Yeah, if her bed's empty or whatever.
He's got a penis that still works, you know.
Which is impressive for an alcoholic at that age.
Let me tell you, did you know Frank has 11 kids?
I did know that.
And he is not in contact with any of them.
And what's great is you have a biological sibling from Frank that you are, what, like 2 weeks?
2 weeks apart in age, yeah.
Yeah, the guy knew his way around the bars in your small town, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Frank had resurfaced, got a hold of your mom, and your mom was talking to him on the phone and trying to get rid of him, but the guy wouldn't hang up, and your mom isn't blunt enough to just be like, Frank, you need to go away. To kind of do the smoke and mirrors, you know, she says, hey, Frank, you know your daughter, Rosie? Well, she's getting married. And then she gives Frank your phone number.
Oh, my gosh, I know.
So Frank calls you half drunk and starts talking to you about you getting married.
Yeah.
The first thing he asked you was, who's going to walk you down the aisle?
Yeah, like he thought he was going to make an appearance at the wedding.
Well, what was your response? Do you remember?
My dad is going to walk me down the aisle.
And she said, my dad. And he said, oh my gosh, I am just so flattered.
Oh my
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you. I would love to walk you. And she cuts him off and says, no, Frank, you're not my dad.
Yeah.
My dad is the one that raised me. And he kind of put him in his place. So at one point he asks to speak to me. And this is the only time I have ever spoken to Frank. I get on the phone and he says, hello, are you this Clyde guy? And I said, yes, I'm Clyde. You must be Frank. And he said, I just want you to know, Clyde, that I have a really big knife and I know how to use it. You treat my daughter poorly, I will track you down. And I was thinking, do you even know what state we live in? Do you even have a driver's license?
Right.
Where you could come track us down? So I just kindly told him, you have nothing to worry about. I will take great care of Rosie. And I haven't heard from the guy since.
No, me either.
Rosie, do you think your dad's awake at this time?
I don't know. I mean, we could see.
All right. I say we give him a call and ask him what it was like to adopt you. I hope he's awake.
Hey, sweetheart.
Hey, Dad. So we have you on the podcast right now. We're actually giving you a call. Sorry it's so late at night.
So how you doing, Dad?
I'm doing great, son. How are you?
I'm doing great as well. So my first question for you, Why did you choose to adopt Rosie?
It was an easy decision, an easy choice. When she was born, I wasn't there for the birth as I was at work, but when I came in off the road that day, I held her in my arms and I looked at her the first time. I just immediately fell in love with her. She was my little monkey from then on.
Was she adorable?
She was the cutest, most sweet, adorable little girl I've ever seen.
Aw, thanks, Dad.
So in a way, nothing's really ever changed. She's still sweet and adorable.
Right.
Well, that's awesome. So what was the process of adopting her?
Oh, well, at that time, we lived in that little town, and it was one courthouse, and then one judge took care of everything. He did everything, from traffic tickets to whatever the judge does, and he also did the adoption. And so it cost me $500 to have a lawyer fill out the paperwork. Just Rosie and I went to the judge, and the judge had her sit on his lap, and he talked to her for a little bit and asked her a bunch of questions, innocent little questions, and she won his heart. And she said, the judge said that, yep, this is a good fit, and she looks happy, and that's where she needs to be.
That's awesome. Any regrets ever?
No, none that I can think of. It's all been fun and all been good.
Yeah, that's a question you can't really answer honestly when Rosie's around. I'll ask you that later.
Okay. Yeah.
I was pretty much a daddy's girl.
Yes, you were very, very much a daddy's girl. When you were about 14 months old, I had a job that I was working out of town, and it was a 2-week on, 2-week off job. So I would leave for 2 weeks, then until I got home. But for the whole 2 weeks, when you were 14 months, you would stand at the back of the couch. We had this big picture window behind the couch, and you would bang your head on the window calling for Daddy. and you were driving your mom crazy. And you had to have Daddy there all the time.
Yeah, well, you're the funnest. I'm sure I wanted you there. Oh, my goodness.
Right. Yeah, well, so needless to say, that job didn't last very long because I had to stay home.
Yeah.
I had to get a job where I was home every day.
You're like, I cannot leave little Rosie. This is too traumatic for everybody.
Right.
And I used to tag along with you everywhere. I mean, you'd throw me in the log truck and take me with you and everything.
I had a car seat special made. I made this car seat just for the log truck, and you would go with me. Not every day, but pretty often you would go. And then, it was just the way it was. So when you were about 2 years old, I was on a logging job way back up in the woods. Well, there was this old house and a bunch of cars and a bunch of stuff out around this house. And behind the house was this full-size old school bus. Well, I stopped, and it was turned into a motorhome. It was all complete, all done except for the motor and transmission. So I ended up buying that school bus, and I towed it home. We were working on it. I was putting the motor and transmission, and I was laying underneath it. And you were 2 years old. You were in your diapers. You crawled on there with me, and you were, helping me fix it, and you were pointing stuff out, and then all of a sudden you said, Daddy, I got to go potty. Well, I didn't want to crawl right out from under the bus, and it was just you and me together. And I said, well, honey, just step outside the bus and pull your diaper down and go. and you did, and you said, was that okay? And I said, oh yeah, that's okay. We didn't live in town or anything. We lived way out in the country. So there was no traffic or nobody around. I wasn't worried about, and you wouldn't leave my side. So you just stepped outside of the bus and you crawled off from under the bus and you pulled your diaper down and you went potty. And that's how I potty broke you. From then on, you were potty broke.
That's a similar method that we used with our boys. I never thought about using that with our daughter, though.
Right?
Just go pee outside, baby. It's fine.
I know.
Right.
So what was Rosie like when she was a little kid?
It depends on the situation. If she was with her brother or sisters or other kids, she was very bossy.
I'm still pretty bossy.
She had to control the games that they were playing. She still had fun. They had fun with her. They laughed and they played. But when she was around the adults, she was the center of attention. Oh, yeah. Everybody loved and adored Rosie.
We have talked about adoption on this episode, but being adopted by you was the best thing that ever happened to me in my entire life.
It was the best decision I ever made in my entire life, having you as a daughter.
Yeah.
It was so much fun and so educational for me as well.
Plus, it eventually led to you having me as a son, so that worked out for you as well.
Well, there is that. I couldn't ask for a better son.
So when you came back to our hometown, we actually had an opportunity to be roommates for about 6 months. And you hadn't lived with me since I was a pretty small child. What was that like to come back and then be living with me as an adult?
Well, I didn't consider you as an adult. You're still my baby.
I know.
You're still my little child. But I loved having all of you kids around me and having the responsibility or the sense of taking care of you and helping you, and that was just my whole world. That's all I cared about.
One of my favorite parts of that period of time was sitting on that front porch, with the dog at our feet and talking about all of your adventures.
We had a lot of fun. Nothing illegal.
Well, we'll keep the illegal stuff on the down low. So one of the things we talked about on our podcast was when I was 8 years old, you actually gave me the news that I was adopted. How did you feel going into that conversation? Like, was that tough?
I didn't want to tell you. It was really tough for me, and I was nervous, and I didn't want to hurt your feelings, and which I think it did, but I didn't want to do it. I just, as far as I was concerned, you were my daughter, and I was your dad, and could have cared less that you were biologically somebody else's. That wasn't an issue for me at all. So I didn't want to tell you because, we were so close, when you were growing up.
So why did you guys end up having to tell me? Was there something going on with Frank, my biological dad?
It was your mom. She wanted to be completely honest and tell, everybody that you were adopted and want it to come from somebody else because then it would crush you probably even more.
I remember feeling just horrible because I loved you so much. And the first thing I said was, but you're still my daddy, and you're like, of course, baby girl, I'm still your daddy and you don't have to worry about Frank. He's not your real dad, and that made me feel better.
Bottom line, you were my daughter and I raised you the best I could for your whole life. And we had a bond that nobody could ever match. Including your biological dad. He couldn't hold a candle to the bond that we had. Even
to this day, I haven't spoken to him in 14 years. He's never been my dad and he never will be my dad because I have you and you're my everything. Before you guys had told me I was adopted, every now and then I would do these special visits at Granny's house and Frank would be there. Were those special visits required by law? Why did I ever have to visit with him, even before I knew I was adopted?
That was kind of your mom's idea, but no, you weren't required by law because Frank never paid child support, so it wasn't nothing like that. It was, I think that was a lot of your mom's idea to get so that you could get to know your granny more than anything, and Frank would just be there.
Yeah, I remember he would just be like on the couch drunk all the time. One time, I came home and I said, I don't really want to go to Granny's anymore if Frank's going to be there because he's mean to me. And I remember I said this while I was in the driveway of Granny's house with you. You were the one who picked me up that time. And you went into the house. I have no idea what you said to Frank, but I never had to see him again after that. Like, you were not going to put up with anybody being mean to your little Rosie, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, that wasn't allowed. I wouldn't tolerate it. I remember that incident, and I just basically I went in the house and told him, look, if you're going to be here with any of my kids, you're going to behave yourself and you're going to be sober. And if you can't do that, then you don't need to be here, or I won't bring them.
He seems to be sort of a fleeting character in my life. Like, if he's ever around, it's for very short periods of time, and then you don't see him again ever. It's just he's kind of an interesting character that's, you know, had very few moments of any sort of importance, you know, in my world.
He was pretty much a drifter.
He's a wandering man who happens to get people pregnant along the way. I'm not sorry that him and my mom had that fun time in that bar that one time, because I came out of it. But the person that I am today, Dad, has everything to do with you and the person that you are. And I think nurture definitely took precedence over nature in that case. Just love you so much.
Yeah, well, I love you too, baby.
You actually wanted to make a little bit of an amendment to the Junker story.
It's all true. I kind of had that plan just because it was the first time I met my son-in-law, and I wanted him to show his stuff. I wanted him to be able to pull his weight, and so I could say, okay, he's a good boy. He's going to be my son-in-law, and he's worth his weight. And I was impressed. He did good.
Well, I absolutely loved the experience of junking with you, and I'm kind of disappointed that we haven't done it more. Next time I'm in town, we got to go junking.
We got to go get something.
So how do you collect all of this junk? Like, do you look on Craigslist? Do you just know somebody that knows somebody? And throughout my whole life, you've collected junk.
Oh, honey, I know everybody. And so I don't have to post anything. People come to me. If I got something, all I got to do is say one word to people, and they'll get to know it. You know, that I've got what they need. So.
Oh my gosh. So we need to help Clyde settle a debate. We talked to Mom on the last episode. She's actually a pretty active person who frequents our podcast as well. She loves the podcast, even though we say some horrible things about her that are true. She still loves it. The last episode, we asked her, and now we're going to ask you, Clyde, what do we need to ask?
Do you believe Bigfoot is real?
Oh, that's a tough question, son. You know, I have not seen Bigfoot personally myself. Being in the woods most of my life, I've never seen signs of him. But I do have family members that swear up and down, and will swear on a stack of Bibles that they have seen Bigfoot.
Are they reliable family members? People that normally tell the truth?
Well, one of them was my dad. He was a forest ranger. He was working out in the woods. He caught a glimpse of something, and he swears up and down it was Bigfoot. But
is there any chance it could have been a bear?
It could have been. I'm not going to say yes or no. It could have been a bear. But the other two sources, I'm not going to say they were overly reliable, because there was probably a little bit of marijuana involved when they claimed to see Bigfoot.
Boy, I tell you what, you're stoked enough. Anything could look like Bigfoot, you know? Well, long story short, you don't regret adopting me. It was a good decision.
Yes, wonderful decision. I love and adore every one of my kids, and I don't regret 1 minute I've ever spent with them. And adopting you was a big part of that.
Well, I love you, Dad, and I'm glad to call you my dad. I'm glad that I got to carry your name. Being adopted was the best thing that ever happened to me. So thank you for making that decision all those years ago, for putting up with my hippie, loving, crazy mom for so many years, and just being such an active part in my life.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome, baby. I love you, and I'll always be there for you.
I love you too, Daddy.
You too, son.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to actually thank you as well for adopting Rosie, because every part of her that I consider normal, she seems to have gotten from you. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And that also depends on what you call normal. One person's crazy could be another person's normal.
Well, I tell you, one thing I appreciate about you, Dad, you're the type of guy that I can just sit on the couch with and not be forced into awkward conversation, if you know what I mean. And I'll never forget the one time you and I had been sitting in the room for an hour. I think we'd maybe said about 5 or 6 words. We were just kind of watching TV. And Mom came in and said, "Oh, I feel bad that Dad's not talking to Clyde." And I said, "What are you talking about? This is one of the best conversations I've ever had in my life."
Right?
So you and I have some similarities. You know, we're both a little more reserved and shy and, you know, just like to sit back and enjoy the room.
Yeah, men of few words.
That's what I told Mom. I said, don't ruin our bonding time.
I know. This is male bonding time right now. We have our own way.
Right.
I love it. Well, we've taken up a lot of your evening, so we'll let you go. But thanks for being a part of the podcast.
So, Rosie, I have a really big surprise for you.
Ooh, I love surprises.
As you know, you submitted your DNA to one of those companies against my better judgment and my advice.
Yeah?
I warned you not to, but you
right,
chose to do it.
because you're afraid they're going to clone me or something. I mean, I am a specimen, so...
I could see why they would want to clone you.
They should want to clone me. I'm freaking awesome.
Here's the odd thing. Did you realize you put my email address as your main contact information?
Yeah, because my email, all it gets is junk mail, so this was something I didn't want to be lost.
Oh, I see. All right, well, I did get the email today, and I was thinking it might actually be fun to post on our podcast, because throughout your life, you've always kind of been the thing that you've never really known.
Yeah, I've never known my genetics, which is why I wanted to do it despite your constant telling me that I shouldn't do it. But dude, I'm so excited. I've been waiting for these results for like 3 months. They must have been complicated because I've heard of people getting their results back a lot sooner than mine are coming back.
Well, considering the fact that you're adopted and your mom never knew her real mom, yeah, I would say that would probably be a safe bet.
So here's what I know about my genetics, allegedly. My mom says that she is Swedish, English, and Native American. And she told me that Frank is 100% Polish. And
so
then,
if he's 100% Polish, that means you are 50% Polish, right?
Right.
Hypothetically.
And of course, you know, my dad who adopted me also thinks that his genetics somehow play a role.
That's funny because when you told him a while back that you were getting this done, he said, "You don't need to do that.
Yeah,
You're
we know
Irish.
what we are.
We're Irish. You're Irish."
Dude, I hope that a little bit of Irish shows up just to give an homage to my adopted father who so desperately wants me to have some of his genetics.
I hated being the guy to remind him that you were adopted.
He went off for like an hour about how we knew what we were made of. And it was funny because you're just looking at me and you're looking at him and you're like, you realize she's adopted, right? And he's like, oh my gosh, like he had gotten so carried away in his genetic conversation and truly believed that I had the same coding.
Yes. What's funny is I kept looking at you like, are you going to say something?
No, I let him just go.
Oh, yeah. I could tell you were just going to let it go all night and just, you know.
I like to humor my father. He's my favorite human on the planet, so I would never disagree with him.
All right, let's bust open the email. So it does start off by showing a...
Dude, can I see it, or are you not going to let me?
No, I will show it to you. I will show it to you after I read it to the audience.
Dude, this is annoying.
So there is a pie chart. I will say there's 11, I think, different colors on the pie chart.
Wow.
So none of them are 50%. In fact, I don't see Poland as an option, which is funny because you actually got teased as being Polish your whole life.
Yeah.
Because you would tell people I'm Polish, so people would make Polish jokes about you.
Nobody teased me more than my own mother. And she said that Polish people were like not smart or something. And I'm very intelligent. So are you kidding me?
Well, maybe that's why you have no Polish in you.
All these years, I've thought I was Polish and not. Are you sure? Like double check.
Double checked. Triple checked. And now quadruple checked.
Oh my
no
gosh.
Polish.
This is scandalous. I'm going to need to call Uncle Floyd and let him know that we don't actually know what our genetics are.
Maybe you shouldn't. That might rock his world.
Yeah.
He's probably been made fun of for being Polish his whole life, too.
Oh, my gosh.
Which, honestly, before...
That might be the most shocking thing about this entire thing because, seriously, that was the one thing that I knew for sure that I was Polish. Because, you know, I can't really trust my mom, what she thinks she is genetically, because she didn't actually know her real mom.
A lot of it might have been wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, I love making my own clothes and beads. Maybe I'm Native American. So, first one that stands out to me, you are Swedish.
Whoa, Mom got one right?
I don't know a lot about Sweden or people who are Swedish, but they do have a reputation for having gorgeous women.
Wow.
So,
and I'm a gorgeous woman.
The shoe fits. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm glad she was right about one.
Yeah, even a broken clock's right twice a day. Isn't that the expression? All right, next up, we have Irish.
Whoa, are you serious?
Yes.
Dude, let's call Dad back. He'll be so excited.
We've already harassed the guy enough for one night.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to call him.
Now, next time he starts talking about how we are Irish, I'm just going to let him go. Yeah. I'm not going to remind him.
Dude, you should feel bad now.
I do. I feel terrible.
You pointed that out.
I feel
right
terrible.
To his face.
I'm a horrible person.
And it's number 3 on the list, which means it's significant.
It's number 2.
What? It's number 2 on the list?
Yeah, I've only read one other one. It was Swedish.
because I wasn't Polish.
Yeah,
okay,
wasn't Polish.
I'm getting confused because you won't let me freaking see the email. You know how I hate that? Like, I really want to see it. Okay, Irish. I like to drink. I'm not going to lie. So...
See, Irish people have a reputation in my mind for drinking hard liquor or beer.
I like Guinness, and I like hard liquor.
But as you've aged, you've transitioned more to wine.
That's true. I'm very domesticated
since
now.
I've seen you drink hard liquor. Number 3 is Scottish.
What? Dad was right about 2 items on the list?
Wow.
Dude, we gotta call him. He's gonna be so freaking excited. A little known fact about my dad. He has, like, a Scottish tattoo tattooed to his body.
Really?
Yeah, on his arm. Because he really identifies as, like, Irish-Scottish.
Well, he's got the red hair.
And then on the other arm, he's got a leprechaun. So, yeah, he really identifies.
I've never really looked at your dad's tattoos before. Yeah, I'll check it out next time we're there. I'll be like, hey, Dad, pull those sleeves up. I want to see them.
I got to admit, he got them when he was young. And so his old man arms, they're a little different than they were when he was younger. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
The leprechaun's a little more weepy, you know?
Like, why do you have an old lady on your arm? It's like, that's a leprechaun.
Yeah.
Do you do a Scottish accent?
No.
Do you want to try?
No.
All right, I'm going to try one. Okay. As you know, my childhood favorite movie was Braveheart.
Oh, yeah.
Watched it at least 1 million times. All of which my mom did not know I had a copy of Braveheart hidden under my bed.
Yeah, I can't imagine that was a mom-approved movie in your household.
No, it definitely wasn't. But every now and then, when Mom and Dad were gone...
I didn't even know Mennonites had TV. I'm just kidding, Mom.
We weren't
You're not a
Mennonites.
I know, I'm just kidding. But she hates it when I say stuff like that.
But we did live with those kind of values. I'll fight and you may die. Run and you'll live, at least a while. And dying in your beds, many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom? Why are you laughing? That was like spot on.
Dude, I can't believe you had that memorized.
Yeah, I memorized a lot of movie lines.
Oh my gosh, you're crazy, kid.
It's an important part of my life. All right, so
What do we got next on the list?
Next up, we have Northwest Europe. England is the next one after that. So I don't know exactly what it means by Northwest
Europe. I wonder if
Europe.
it means like Wales and some of those.
Well, you are very white. However, not as white as you think, because number 6 on the list is Cameroon, Congo, Southern Bantu people. Southern Bantu people, I believe that is the like below the Sahara Desert. So yeah, that's kind of cool.
That's kind of interesting because I'm like very pale skinned. So
you are. I would not think that, but interesting.
I did not expect that like the Congo area would be in my genetic, just from looking at me. Not that it's a problem. Maybe that's where I kind of get my little bit of curly hair from or something. I don't know. I've also very dark eyes, like abnormally dark eyes.
Maybe that's it.
And my eyes are always every person's favorite thing about me. Like when I'm, have dated people, not that I dated a lot before you, but
they're all dead now. Yeah. So
every one of them would say your eyes just like call me. It's like they speak to people. They love my eyes.
Yeah.
Maybe I got them from my people in the Congo.
All right. You want to hear what's number 7 on the list?
Yeah.
Number 7, Jewish.
Ooh, I like Jewish.
Yeah. It might be why you're so good with money.
I am good with money. Dude, I love that. First the Congo and then the Jewish.
Yeah. And then German.
Dang.
That's
what?
number 8.
People at war?
Oh, yeah. I don't think Germans hate Jews anymore, though. So,
well, that's good.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'd have some real internal conflict.
I have always wanted to be Jewish. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but like a lot of amazing actors and actresses are Jewish. And as a kid, I always sort of thought that I would become an actress. That was like a dream of mine. I wanted to be a dancer and an actress growing up. I didn't become either of those things, but I always thought like, man, if only I was Jewish,
it would happen.
It would happen. Dude, I wish I knew that sooner.
Yeah. I always wanted to be a podcaster when I was a kid.
I actually am kind of getting to be creative on here, though. So I'm sort of using some of that creativity that I had as a small child towards this podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm semi-famous. I mean, 1,000 people are listening to my voice.
Dude, hold on. I got to interject real quick about being semi-famous. There was a guy that reached out to us on Facebook today. Now, you and I share a Facebook account.
Right. We confuse people because sometimes I reply and sometimes you reply.
Yeah.
I started to put -Rosie next to my comments just as to
I never put anything because I want people to be confused. But here's the great thing. I had a young gentleman reach out to me today and say, looking at your profile, love to get to know you a little better.
Wow.
And I wrote back to him and I said, cool, if you want to get to know us, as in more than one person, the best way to do that is check out our podcast.
Yeah, that's a good reply.
And then he replied back, hey, Angel, how about you send me some pics?
Wow, bold move.
And then I wrote him back and I said, well, I'm a dude. No one's ever called me Angel before, but I kind of like it. He never responded after that. We may have lost a listener.
Oh, that's all right. I doubt he was even listening. If he knew Clyde and Rosie, he would know that, who we are and things like that. So that's really funny.
So listen up, gentlemen. Do not come after my wife on my Facebook account. I will call you out on it on this podcast.
Yeah.
All right. After German, 9. Number 9 is Native American.
Ayo! Mama's right about another one?
That's right.
Dude, I bet she never saw the African American or the Jewish coming.
But she knew the Native American was in there.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad I have some Native American in me.
All right, you have 2 more things on the list. Number 10, you are Russian. Last on the list. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Baltic states.
Wow, I don't even think I know where the Baltic states are.
It's the 3rd square on Monopoly. I believe they're part of the purple properties.
It's the purple properties?
Yeah, the cheap ones. You
All
buy
right.
for like $60. It's like Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia.
Ooh.
I'm busting out some of that elementary education geography right there.
I wonder if one of my relatives is maybe a bobsledder.
I hope so.
Dude, that'd be cool.
Dude, Cool Runnings is one of my favorite movies all time. So 4 out of the 7 continents, you are like a jigsaw puzzle with all these different genetics shoved together.
I wonder if that's why I'm so good with people. Like, I seriously love all people. No matter where you're from, who you are, who you love.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with you being of diverse genetics. I think it's just that you're a people person.
I feel like a more whole person having known this information. You're like the opposite of me. I'm like, oh, it's so cool. I'm like related to everybody on the planet. And you're like, what if people know?
I know.
Well, this has been a fun episode. We did not do Google searches today, but we'll catch them on the next one. Thank you for listening. Don't forget that you can follow our podcast on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter.
Check out our website, ilovemyidiot.com. Also, don't forget that we are on many different podcasting platforms. You can check us out and spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your family.
That's right. We care about you and your family, and we hope that you continue to listen to our podcast and have a good time with us.
I love my idiot.
I think you just swallowed my drill bit, as if this is my fault.